Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
And I'd like to make very welcome to the program now, Kerry Lovell, Co-ordinator of the Kapiti Foodbank. Good morning, Kerry.
Good morning, John.
Lovely to talk to you, not lovely in terms of the circumstances. And I see that you've been kind enough to get another volunteer in so you can talk to us on the radio. And it brings up the point that you're all volunteers at the food bank, aren't you?
Correct.
And this is something that really you put an enormous amount of time and dedication into. And I believe that recently your services are even more necessary than they have been in the past.
That's right. We've seen a steady increase in numbers, and the volunteers are often commenting that, we're busier now than we've ever been busy. Our new client numbers in February alone was 51 new clients. We gave away 229 boxes of food to families in the community in February.
Goodness me.
And, that's a lot of food.
That's a lot of food.
Needing help.
Goodness me. And when you say a box of food, how big would that box be?
Well, it depends what they are requiring. If they're a single person or if they're a family with children.
Oh, yes.
We always ask who we're providing for, how many adults, how many children, and the ages. And so, for instance, a box with 2 adults and children, they would have a packet of rice, a packet of flour, a tin of baked beans, a tin of spaghetti, perhaps 2, depending on our stocks, a tin of vegetables, coffee or tea, a couple of tins of fruit. We also put in toilet paper, toothpaste, toothbrush, washing powder. Right. Interestingly, washing powder and toothpaste are often things that people specifically ask for. I think when your budget is very low and, you've only got enough for food, those are sort of things that are often missed off the shopping. And it's quite surprising how often we get asked for them. We give a bag of vegetables with every box, potatoes, onion, carrots. If we have other vegetables that have come in from people's gardens or kibosh, we will give, pop them in the box.
Yes.
A 2-litre milk, a marge, meat if we've got it. A lot of our clients want meat because that's something that they can't afford on their budget. So it's a very rounded box.
Yes, it is. It's
purposed for 3 days.
Ah.
So we provide for 3 days of meals.
And how often do you think you would see your clients? Do they come in every week sometimes?
Well, anybody is allowed to have three parcels of food per year, and they can choose when those 3 parcels, when they have them.
Okay.
They could have them one day after each other if they wanted. So at the beginning of the year, we tend to get people who use up those 3 very quickly. After those 3 boxes, they have to have a referral. And that spreads out the food for those that, are in need during the rest of the year.
So those 229 you mentioned before, they'd be pretty close to being unique visitors, wouldn't they? And the 51 new represents a very real increase. I mean, that's what is it?
Yes.
It's about 20% or something. That's a significant increase in demand.
Yes, and I think we're seeing a new type of people come in the door for Food Bank. The young people, the 20-year-olds who actually are working, but their wage is so low. By the time they've paid their rent, their power, their phone, petrol, there's very little money for food.
Yes, indeed. Well, this is what's happening in our community, that many, particularly young people, but not only young people, are on minimum wages. And the rents have just skyrocketed recently, and I don't think that's any secret. So obviously, there is a gap at the end. But Kerry, from what you're saying, with the 3 parcels, that's only 9 days' food, isn't it? So
that's
it's still a very, very big gap here that we've got in our community. There's a real need.
Oh, John, it's just unbelievable. People's despair at times when they come in here. Men crying.
Yes.
Because...
Are they ashamed, do you think?
No, look, it tests your pride to come in.
Sure.
But, they are trying to support their family. They don't want to be unemployed. They don't want to be without food, but they are. And, it's hard for people to ask for food for their family when, as the male, we often are the hunter and gatherer, and we want to provide.
Yes.
And to not be able to provide is very, very difficult for particularly men and of all ages, retirees, family members.
That's right.
And we get some pretty sad stories and some pretty heartfelt cases in here where people are actually really, really hungry and really having a hard time.
And from what you're saying, it's not only the unemployed, it is the working poor as well.
Absolutely, because, I think in the last couple of weeks I've had probably 3 or 4 families have come and said, I've just had a $150 vet bill. I have no more money for food. The beginning of the school year is always tough on families. And so if there are extra school trips or school fees or sports fees, that eats into their budget. And it's interesting that food is often the last on the list.
Yes.
I believe that most of us are only 2 paydays away from the breadline.
Goodness me. And given what's happening in the world at the moment, where, anyone with half a glass eye can see that we're heading into very, very troubled times at the moment.
Yes.
And jobs are very much imperiled in certain industries. So your services are going to become even more important. And from what I read in the paper, you are desperately needing more food in the food bank.
Yes, we are. We love the food runs from Rotary in May and the Lions in November.
So they're your major food gathering events, aren't
they? Major food gathering,
yes.
And that usually sustains us, but it's interesting how it's not. So we rely then on the top-ups of the drop boxes in all the supermarkets.
Yes.
And it's what I find really interesting. The people that come in for food parcels often comment to me when they're okay, they're the ones that drop food in food parcels.
Because they know how important this is.
Yes, they know what it's like.
Is it overstretching to say that on occasions you've been a lifesaver?
Many occasions for families, Food Bank is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Many occasions, daily.
You've got to think about the young people at times like this. I mean, they do need their food, and if young people are starved, there are consequences later in life. So that's a real possibility in our community. It doesn't seem right. Now, the food bins at the supermarkets, it seems to me from what you're saying that they've become even more important to you now. Yes,
they do. They're the top-ups, the weekly top-ups of our food that we give out is the drop boxes in the supermarkets, and we're lucky enough to have churches that collect for us. And, that advertisement in the paper, which we were very grateful for, we had a company, Mills Albert, who rallied together and met in Pack and Save at 12:30 on Friday and to fill trolleys, and then they dropped them all off here.
Wow.
I mean, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And I suppose you have got wonderful stories like that make your heart glow.
Absolutely. And also wonderful stories of people that come in for food boxes. Really courageous people who are making changes in their life. They've come out of prison,
yes.
They've come from gangs, and they want to make changes. And they need help, and having a food parcel is part of that help.
Well, what a fascinating, I was going to say occupation, what a fascinating devotion you are in right now, because you are a volunteer. And I imagine you're putting several hours a week into this, are you, Kerry?
Yes, I am the only paid person in Foodbank.
Oh, I see.
So I do
Right.
actually have a wage of 20 hours. Everybody else is volunteers.
Right, okay. So this is the Kapiti Community Foodbank, and I think community is an important part of this, because obviously if certain people in the community are struggling, those of us who are better off, we have a certain responsibility. And what's your impression about, let's just talk about those food bins at the supermarkets. Do you think that people support that enough and support that regularly enough?
I think it would be nicer if they were supported more regularly. It's easy to forget that other people, we get caught up in the drama of our own lives, the need for our own budget to, meet the needs of the family. And so it's very easy to forget that there's people all around us that are needing food, and so it's easy to forget to pop those things in the food bank drop boxes.
And do you prefer non-perishable goods to go in there?
We don't mind what goes in. We really don't. The packet of toothpaste, the toilet rolls are just as important as the food.
Indeed. Fascinating. Kerry, one last question. If no more food came in from here on in, how much longer could you go at the Kapiti Foodbank? How much stock have you got?
I think we would last a week.
Wow.
Perhaps 2. We do have an abundance of pasta and tinned tomatoes at the moment.
Well, there we are, you see. A bit of a spaghetti bolognese.
Next week.
Okay. Kerry, thank you so much for joining us. I really admire what you and the volunteers do, and we certainly hope that it comes through, because we live in difficult times. They may get harder, and you'll become even more essential in our community. Thank you so much for supporting us.
Thank you very much, John.
Lovely to talk to you. Kerry Lovell there.
106.3 Beach FM.